Writers Unite, and I am here with Ella York. And you guys know me, so I'm not going to introduce myself because it's my channel. But Ella, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Ella York. I write in women's fiction and YA fantasy. I have three, about to be four, women's fictions novels that are self-published called The Uncovering the Black Rose Saga. My fantasy novel, I'm currently submitting it to agents, so am querying. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And I definitely have a trophy fantasy, so this is a perfect topic for us to discuss. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at the Ella York. And you can also find me at my website, www.ella-york.com.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to be talking about fantasy cliches or tropes.
Mm-hmm.
And so to start it off, everyone always talks about fantasy cliches and stuff as if they're a very bad thing that you should avoid. Do you think that writers should try to avoid them?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm going to tell you why. It's a trope for a reason because it was successful, right? So, people always talk about like, oh, no one wants to see another Harry Potter, no one wants to see another chosen one or a prophecy. But the big thing is people still go to Harry Potter Park and they still buy Harry Potter things. And all these years later, they're still dressing up as Harry Potter for Christmas and talking about, I mean, not Christmas, but Halloween and talking about which house they're in. I was just at a conference with other 30 something adults. And what were we talking about? Which Harry Potter house we were in, which house we were in Hogwarts. And so I'm just like, tropes are there for a reason. Yes, they can be overdone, but when you're dealing with a trope that has legs, it's hard to say no, don't do that ever again. People obviously want it. It just has to be done right.
I agree completely. Like, there's cases where I read a sort of like a chosen one plot line, and I'm like, oh god, here comes the same plot line over and over again. And then there's other times where it's a chosen one plot line, and I don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's the key. But that kind of leads
Yeah.
into the second question, which is, do you
Hmm.
have a way of making a cliche less cheesy or not cheesy? Like,
I think the biggest thing about the cliche is don't do it exactly how it's done in popular mainstream books. Like, you have to put your spin on it. You have to do something that the reader says, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Or even if they thought it might be coming, they have to keep reading to see. So when I first started writing my book, I'll just use mine for an example. Um, I started her out as the chosen one. That was how I pitched it. That was like the plot line of the book. And I'm like, this is just like everything else out there. I have to do something different. So then I started making changes to it, um, where it doesn't start out with her being the chosen one. So kind of how like it could have been Harry or Neville, and that was like put out later in the book that it was a choice between these two. So it's like, well, why not make that like they think it's the other guy first, and then it turns out that it's your guy. So it's like start with changing it up in a way that it's different, but still gets, the meat of what you really want.
yeah, I agree completely. Like, for example, if you are going with the chosen one route again, the best thing you can do is research other books or movies or whatever that have done it, and
Hmm.
then decide for yourself which parts make it cheesy, and then just completely do your own spin on it. Like, don't feel like you have to follow like the step rule for a chosen one plotline. Like, the guy lives
Hmm.
on a farm or something like that, or he lives like a normal life, and then all of a sudden he's thrust into like this chosen one plotline, because that's what always happens. Instead, just try to like step out of that sort of step by step role and just come up with your own thing.
Yeah, like make your guy be like the popular jock, the one that everybody knows and loves, and he has his whole life planned out for him. He's accepted into Harvard, like he's the golden child. And then all of a sudden make him be like something chosen for evil, or like where he has to give up his old life in order to do something. So something like that, that's different. People don't really do that often. It's always, like you said, the normal kid.
Yeah, yeah, or like a completely unique twist would be like if this evil villain was like walking along, and all of a sudden someone shows up and is like, "Oh, you're the chosen one who's going to save the Earth," and he's like, Oh no.
Like what?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to ruin stuff.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just like completely coming up with your own spin on the cliche is what makes it
We
not
just gave you guys some storylines, just so you know.
exactly. I want to read it. Okay, so if you had to pick one fantasy cliche as your favorite, what would it be?
The chosen one. I honestly, I love a good underdog story. I feel like, especially when it comes to the chosen one, which, like you said, very cliche, like the normal kid, the one that's overlooked, the one that's teased. I love seeing the person that's on the bottom come out on top. There is nothing more rewarding. And I love that cliche because at the end of the day, like we all want to believe that we're meant for something greater, right? We all don't want to be just normal people all the time. We want to believe that there's something that we're going to do to change the world. And so I really, really like that cliche because I feel like it gives us that. It allows you to say, you know what, this ordinary person did extraordinary things. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I personally love that one. It's my favorite.
I like that one too, but I have to say that my personal favorite is like the group of people coming together and forming a team and becoming friends. I'm like a huge sucker for the power of friendship kind of things. Like, like
Oh
Lord of the
yeah.
Rings, where it's like a group of people
Hmm.
setting off on a quest together and then becoming friends along the way.
I love
Yeah.
quests. I
Yep.
love quests.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I'm a sucker for friendships and stuff in novels and stuff like that. I don't know.
It's so funny. It's like I really feel like in my book I took all the like cheesy tropes that everyone hates and I like smashed it into one book. I'm a fan of the friendships growing and the budding romance and all that. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, you're just like, forget it. I love them all. I'm not even going to try. You'll either like it or you won't.
Yep, mush it on in there. You'll get over it.
Now, is there one that you don't like in fantasy books?
I hate, hate the evil royalty. I mean, I know it happens. I get it. But the one where the prince is evil or the king is evil, those, yeah, that's just one that because it's hard. Like you always end up angry. I get it, but I that's the one I can't get behind.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I feel like that happens quite a bit. It's almost like um, when you're not of the wealthy class, sometimes you feel like you have to insult the wealthy class, and sometimes that comes across in writing, where it's like every single noble person or anyone of royal line is evil. And
Mm-hmm.
I've met some wealthy people, and they're nice too. So
Me
like,
too.
yeah,
Nicest people on the planet.
yeah.
But it can be done successfully if you have other people of nobility that kind of balance it out, that are really good, that are, like I'm thinking of Children of Blood and Bone. So that one has every single royal trope that you could possibly think of. It has the evil prince who tries to turn and do the right thing at the end. It has, the evil king in there as well. And then it has the sister who's just good. So it has like all those different elements. And if done right, it can work, but you always know that the evil prince is going to end up doing bad things at the end, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like,
He's never going to be fully good.
yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah. I think that's what people forget is that people are complex. Like, there's no like one type of person. So
Hmm.
if there's going to be some sort of evil, horrible, noble person who has like a bunch of followers, chances are there's going to be one noble person who's like, nah. Like, yeah.
Hmm.
My personal least favorite one is the one where it's like an entire race is evil, like
Mm.
orcs or something like that, and it's for pretty much the exact same reason that like with the what you just said, where it's like it's unlikely. Like if they have like the same mentality as people, then chances are they shouldn't all think the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as much as I love reading like Lord of the Rings and other books like that, at the same time it's kind of something I get really tired of reading now. Like it worked back then and now it's kind of like, maybe mix it up a little.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is that I would say to anybody that's writing tropey things, because I write tropey things, like I said, and just know that there's ebbs and flows. So if your book doesn't have a space right now, it's because the market has shifted. But you better believe, just like with horrible fashion, it will always recycle itself, and there'll be a place for it later. So it's subjective. Don't look at
Yeah,
it and say
but
right now this is overplayed, it's overdone, because I've had agents that say this has been done to death. I can't even look at it. But you know what? Like, it works, and I think it'll come back around. So you just kind of have to stick with your project and know that it may be more of a long-term goal. If you, because like the trends are crazy. Like, it takes one thing to make your book the it book, and you happen to have it written, right? But like by the time you try to write the it thing, because oh yeah, this is what people are talking about now, let me write that book. By the time you do that, that fad has passed. So now you're gonna have to sit on it again and wait. So just write what you want to write and wait for the world to come back to it and appreciate your book.
yeah, well, like even like with our cliches that we said we didn't like, there's nothing wrong with writing them. Just want to point that out.
Mm,
If you want to write them, you go for it. You can have your evil orcs and hobgoblins and whatever else, but it's just like subjective. So what we like, other people won't, and back
mm-hmm,
and forth. But yeah, I just completely agree. Like, just write what you like. Like, for example, I
mm-hmm,
remember when I was younger and Buffy the Vampire Slayer was huge. There came like a
mm-hmm.
whole bunch of vampire romances back then. And then all of a sudden Twilight came around, and then all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of vampire romances again. And it kind of like goes up and down. So just because vampire romances are not popular at this current moment, chances are they will be again very soon, because it just goes in cycles.
Yep, and here's the thing. If it's a trope, it's listed as a trope for a reason, because at one point it was very successful. So once people are over the fact that it was like done to death for a while, they'll come back to it. It's a trope, it's a cliche, which means people like it. They it keeps coming back. So there will be a place for your work.
Yeah, there's something comfortable about reading a trope or a cliche like that, you know.
Hmm.
Like, for example, if I'm in the mood for reading something that I kind of like a comfort reading kind of thing, and I pick up a
Hmm.
chosen one plot line, it's a familiar story to me, so it's kind of like nice and cozy, and sitting back and reading it. So yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes
It's
you like
like
to
how
read.
you Yeah, it's like how if you're doing the holidays, for example, like every year around fall, Starbucks brings back my pumpkin spice latte. And like with the sip of this pumpkin spice latte, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I get all this nostalgia, and it just makes me think of fall and the leaves changing colors, and the holidays. It's like that. Like you get a sip of your favorite thing, and it just brings back all these wonderful memories from everything that you used to love. So don't, like we said, they're not bad. You just have to wait for your place with them.
Yes, exactly. Like, don't give up on what you love. Just keep writing it.
Mm-mm. I honestly say, because I've written quite a few things, and I never wrote any of them to be a bestseller. Now, I'd be a fool to lie and say that that's not what I want. But at the end of the day, I write it because I love it. If you write your book because you love it, and you love your characters, and you love your storyline, then nothing that anybody tells you is going to take away from the work that you're doing. So write what you love and say, you know what, if nobody else but me reads this book, I'm happy with it. And that's how you have to write. You can't write for the world, you have to write for yourself, and then hope the world loves it.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that's exactly what you should do. If it's something that you're passionate about, you chances are you will find eventually a small following of people who are also passionate about that thing.
Hmm.
Sometimes it takes time, and sometimes it takes a very long time, but it
Yep.
eventually will happen if you keep at it and keep publishing books and keep writing.
Absolutely. Don't give up. Don't give up at all. And this is going away from the video and kind of just into the publishing journey, but it's such a long process. Everybody hears about the Stephanie Meyers of the world, where it just went whirlwind, and all of a sudden she has movies and she's got a six-figure deal, and it doesn't happen like that. Like, 99.5% of the time, it doesn't happen like that. Most authors, and if you go on YouTube, other YouTube channels, and you look at their journey to publication, it was years. I mean, and they had, God, 40, 50 rejections before somebody even said, you know what, I'll kind of look at it.
Yeah.
Like send me 50 pages. And then there's people that I know, like I've, met a lot of authors at conferences and stuff, and they've had requests for full manuscripts. They wanted, agents have asked them to send their full book, and they had like 6 or 7 of those just to get rejected ultimately. So don't get discouraged. It's really subjective, and the more that I immersed in the world, the more I see that it is subjective and it doesn't say anything about your work. It's just about finding the right person that loves your work. So don't give up. Don't say, you know what, I've been working on this book for 2 years. If you think it's worth it, keep pushing it, because eventually someone will come around to it. I remember reading this article once that showed like some of the most popular books of all time, like books that we still even read, 100 years later, 50 years later, 60 years later, and how many rejections they got. And they used to write letters back then of rejection. So they were saying with like Princess Diaries, for example, the lady had a whole barrel of rejection letters that she kept in her room, and she would just toss them in the corner, and she just had that one that believed in the book, and now look at it. So it's just, you can't give up, and you can't sit there and say, you know what, this person doesn't like it, that person doesn't like it. I'm not the one person that has to believe in your book. You, your agent, and your publisher. That's it. And then they'll make the rest of the world see it.
Yeah, even with self-publishing, I was listening to, I think it's this science or the science fiction and fantasy marketing podcast. I think that's what it's called. And they were saying on one of the episodes that on average it took them about 10 books self-published to even start getting noticed. So,
That's about accurate. I believe it.
yeah.
I believe it. And there's other different platforms out there that you can go and just start to put feelers out there, like Wattpad. I'm trying that for the first time. I
Oh,
started
are
doing
you?
that. Yeah, I started doing that maybe 2 weeks ago. So I put a couple chapters up. I'm going to add another one. And, you just really have to get yourself out there. Do a YouTube channel, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, really just start pushing your material out there, because it's not going to get noticed sitting in your computer. No
Mm-hmm.
one else is going to know about it. So
Yeah.
you have to talk about it, and, keep writing. I have this one book that I have been working on trying to get pitched for years, but that doesn't mean that I haven't developed other ideas and worked on other projects in the meantime. And that's what I'm putting out on these other platforms. I'm like, these are kind of things that might get you noticed because it's a little different. So just always keep your ear to the ground, see what's hot out there, and just try and get yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think pushing yourself on social media is also how you find others that like the same cliches as you. Like, for example, a lot of the people on this Fantasy Writers Unite group
Mhm.
like very similar cliches. And
Mhm.
we found each other through social media. And we're still finding
Yep.
people through social media. And I don't know, I think that's great. Like, because yeah, no, it's not something that's popular where I live. Not at all. People don't really read fantasy novels. Anyone that I know, most people don't even read. So finding people that can like or do like to read and do like to read what I
Mhm.
like to read was huge, and it's kind of like a huge motivator for writing my cliche fantasy novels.
Oh yes, definitely. And you know what they say, or they used to say anyway, that being a writer was one of the loneliest things, because you're sitting by yourself building these worlds in front of your computer every day. But with the times that we're in, with social media, with all the different ways that you can outreach, I have actually found that the writing community is probably the most supportive place.
So much
There's
so.
Yeah, there's so much support, because people want to see you be successful, because that gives them hope that they can also be successful, that they can also get there. And I mean, if you go on, like, there's so many different hashtags. So when I said am querying, like hashtag am querying on Twitter, you'll find all kinds of writers that are in the query process. So you guys can kind of get each other through it. If you do like hashtag writing community. There's other people that are out there doing that too. And so the more you get out there, the more you meet other people, it doesn't feel lonely. You know, it doesn't feel like you're by yourself. There's other people that are involved, and it kind of gives you hope that yes, you're writing a cliche, and yes, it's very tropey, but guess what? I just sold that book.
Yeah.
So don't give up because it works.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can go online and find people who don't like the cliches that you like.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you can go online and find lots and lots of people who love the cliches that you like. And those are the people that you
Hmm.
want to focus on because those are the people who
That's
chances are
your
read your
people.
book.
Yep.
And so yeah, chances are they write something they'll write something that you want to read too. So those are your people. Stick with them.
Those are your people. That's your tribe.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for today, unless you have anything else you'd like to add in about this.
No, we've talked about everything.
Okay, so I'm going to put Ella's information in the description below. And yeah, so that way you guys know where to find her. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.